This just popped up on the timeline today, and everybody went, really? Not Elon Musk, but little Ben Shapiro just kind of jumped on the timeline and dropped this bomb on everybody.
Issuing pardons, however, there is one person that President Trump should pardon from federal charges forthwith. It would be incredibly controversial, but I think that it's absolutely necessary. That person is Derek Chauvin. President Trump should, in fact, pardon Derek Chauvin. He should pardon him his federal charges. If we are talking about reversing the evils of the last several years in American life, obviously COVID and its handling was a massive evil. Destroyed the economy, set us on a path to fiscal insanity, destroyed children, led to massive health-related cover-ups.
Which, by the way, little Ben was all in favor of. Never forget, little Ben was in favor of the shot. Little Ben was in favor of the 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Don't let him rewrite this history. Little Ben was Captain Vaccination. Little Ben was Captain 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Little Ben has been an anti-Trumper. He is still an anti-Trumper. He's just trying to ride the coattails so, the conservative movement doesn't toss him out, the baby with the bathwater. Don't let him get away with that.
All the way around. And President Trump has taken on a lot of those things. But when it came to BLM, the inciting event for the BLM riots that caused $2 billion in property damage in the United States and set America's race relations on their worst footing in my lifetime, was in fact the railroading of Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd. The evidence demonstrates that Derek Chauvin did not in fact commit murder of George Floyd. George Floyd was high on fentanyl. He had a significant pre-existing heart condition. George Floyd was saying he could not breathe before he was even out of the car. He was in the car saying he could not breathe. Derek Chauvin, for large segments of even the tape that was shown, had his knee on George Floyd's shoulder or back, not on his neck. The autopsy of George Floyd showed that he had no damage to his trachea, that probably George Floyd died of excited delirium. There were no accusations, even at trial, that Derek Chauvin had committed a hate crime against George Floyd or that he targeted George Floyd because of his race. Nonetheless, on the basis of extraordinarily scanty evidence, and despite the fact that there was massive pressure on the jury, that the mayor of Minneapolis paid a settlement to the George Floyd family immediately, that the president of the United States suggested that Derek Chauvin was guilty right off the bat, that the jurors were being openly threatened and admitted as much. Despite all of that, Derek Chauvin was convicted on federal charges and pled guilty to federal charges. Derek Chauvin should, in fact, be pardoned on that. We will be covering that a lot more in coming weeks.
I'm muted. Okay. Where were you in 2021? Where were you in 2022? Where were you in 2023? Where were you? You were hiding because it wasn't politically expedient for you, Ben Shapiro. You didn't think it was the cause du jour then. Why are you doing it now? Bravery is not speaking up when it's safe. Bravery was speaking up in 2021. Bravery was speaking up in 2022, but you didn't. You've always been an anti-Trumper, and why you're bringing this up now, it's absolutely ridiculous. And we're going to show the receipts in a moment. And I'm not going to mute myself so I don't have that happen to me again.
I think it is worthwhile to remember that there is a man who is rotting in prison because the media decided in the middle of 2020 that they were going to turn a tragic law enforcement stop that ended with the death of a man who had a significant problem with drugs and pre-existing health problems into the raison d'etre of the entire 2020 election.
And you were nowhere to be found. In fact, we will show the receipts in a moment.
And it led to vast chaos. It led to, again, the destruction of racial comedy in the United States, $2 billion in property damage, and a guy rotting in prison who the evidence demonstrates certainly was not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in that case. If we're going to talk about delivering pardons, President Trump, I think, should really seriously consider pardoning on federal charges. He can't pardon on state charges. Derek Chauvin.
All right, enough of that. Let's get to this. So, and this is what I'm talking about. Conservatives that instinctively sided against Chauvin or McMichaels shouldn't be trusted just because they can tell which way the wind was blowing. Back in 2021, government has one primary function: to prevent the violation of rights of life and liberty. A police officer destroyed George Floyd's rights. That is no excuse for our government to abandon citizens' rights to life and liberty in favor of rioters and looters. Do your damn jobs. I returned from a 2-day Jewish holiday and half the country is on fire. We all agree on George Floyd, which is why a bad cop is now under arrest. Anyone who defends looting and rioting and targeting of business owners on a basis is short of evil. Guess what? Guess what? He wasn't there. He was not there when you need it. You're not stealing TVs to honor George Floyd, protest police brutality. You're stealing that TV because you're a blank. And yes, of course, the officer in that video should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of their law breaking. Now, hey, I don't mind it if somebody's like, hey, I looked at this stuff and it's probably not the way it was spun. But why didn't you do that in 2022, homie? Why didn't you do it in 2023? Why now? Why now? And forget anybody that says, well, Richard, no. Don't come out because, as this guy correctly quoted in his tweet, because the wind's blowing the proper way. Now you're going, well, we should totally pardon Derek Chauvin. I mean, the guy was incorrect. You absolutely cheerled the prosecution and the destruction of Derek Chauvin's life. And now, does he not forget that this actually exists, that people actually know and keep the receipts from this? He doesn't even like Donnie. He's always been an anti-Trumper. He's always, him and Beck, they just jumped on board because half their audience liked Donald Trump. Why do it now? Because he's a grifter. He's the king of grifting. And so now he's going to come out as this law and justice, reformer. Oh, well, we gotta save Derek Chauvin because he was unfairly prosecuted. You know why? Because people like you led the cheer in 2020, homie. Nah, that is not even close. Yeah, Elon Musk said he wants to do it, whatever. And then this man, Delano Squires, is, I think, one of the smartest men out there. He's a regular on Fearless with Jason Whitlock. And he has a nice thing. This is the right hands up, don't shoot moment. A narrative long on emotion and short on facts. Chauvin pleaded guilty to federal charges of violating Floyd's civil rights and those of a 14-year-old in a separate case. He wasn't convicted of mob rule. So, there's a lot of things to consider here. There's a lot of things to consider when it comes to this. And the fact that now, out of nowhere, Derek Chauvin has a new advocate in Ben Shapiro. I don't trust it. Neither should you. Of course, the Daily Wire audience will come flooding and tell me how, I don't understand Ben, and Ben has a right to change his opinion, and why you so mean, and maybe you hate him because he's a you, and all these other. I don't care about any of that. I care about the fact that this guy has one of the most prominent voices in conservatism, and he doesn't have a single he does not have a single principle that he stands on. He does not have a single principle that he is willing to stand firm on. Everything is up for compromise with him. There's one thing, and it's foreign relations wise, and I think we all know that's the only principle he stands on. But everything else, he's more than willing to shill for his audience and to grift his audience. Oh, well, if we're doing pardons, why doesn't Trump pardon Derek Chauvin? Yeah, put Trump in a super awkward position by doing that. That's a real great idea, Benny. That's a super great idea. I don't trust it. I don't think it's a great idea. And I really don't like it, because Matt Bernard comes out and he has a great point as well. He's serving 21-year federal court sentence, but he's also got a 22.5-year sentence in Minnesota on a state charge. He can't do anything. So you pardon him at the federal level. It's a nothing burger because he's still there. And in Minnesota, you're going to have to get a part from the governor, that's Tampon Tim, the AG, which is that psycho, I don't even remember his name, and then the state court chief justice. I'm pretty sure all three of those are liberal, and there's no way on God's beautiful green earth that he created for us that any of them are going to go against this. There's a no-win situation for Trump. It puts him in a corner, and it just doesn't work. And the fact that Ben Shapiro, apparently the smartest man in conservative media, who's apparently a lawyer as well, doesn't thinks that this is somehow a brilliant idea. And there are people cheerleading it. There are people supporting it. Of course, all of conservative media is going to come out and say, well, yeah, Ben Shapiro said it, so I think it's a really good idea. Yeah. And anybody like Whitlock or myself that questions it goes, well, you can't question these things now. It must be because of his little hat. No, I don't care that he's that. I don't care that he's Jewish. I care that he's a prominent voice in the conservative media, and he has one principle that he stands on, and everything else is up for clicks, retweets, likes, and subscriptions. That's all. And it's ridiculous. If I was Trump, I'd be like, little Ben, stick to your crappy streaming service. Let me do my thing. So it's just absolutely, oh man, if you want to hear me go off on stuff, conservative grifting, cannot stand it. Will not stand for it. Even though I'm not a very huge voice, but I don't like it. I don't like the timing of it. I don't like the fact that if he does this gives the Democrats something to run on in the midterms. It's a total lose-lose. Don't do it. Do not do it. If anybody knows President Trump who watches this show, I don't know why you are, but don't do it.